and then he sent them to the diddler.
As a result of being around that man, Sean Puffy Combs, I don't sleep to this day. I have a problem sleeping to this day. I got it from him.
Being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So.
Looking back, it appears Usher may have been quietly signaling something for years. In past interviews and public appearances, there were subtle moments, especially when the topic turned to his early days with Diddy, that now seem more telling than they did at the time. Most viewers once overlooked these hints. But today, fans are revisiting those old clips with a different perspective. They're noticing the shifts in Usher's expression, the careful way he chose his words, and the way he often seemed tense or hesitant when Diddy's name came up. He never came right out and said anything, but the long pauses, guarded answers, and fleeting glances are now raising questions. It's as if he wanted to speak, but felt he couldn't. Now, with new context emerging, the public is starting to connect the dots and asking the bigger question: what was Usher holding back and why?
Now being in this big city, I don't know nobody. I don't know my way around. I don't know the culture of what this place is. I don't even know what the word culture meant at the time. And it was hard. There were a lot of things I seen and a lot of positions that I think I was put in where I had to make very, very tough decisions in my life about who I would be. I was 13 years old, and being 13, having that type of exposure, it was cool to go to Howard Homecoming with Puff. It was great to be able to go to Club USA or the Supper Club, with Puffy in that time, or the Tunnel. But these are places that a 13-year-old probably should not be. Most kids will be excited about it. Most kids are trying to figure out, how to be around, hot girls, pretty girls. I'm around grown women, and I'm seeing them do things and have experiences that I'm not quite ready for. And I think that he was just trying to show me the lifestyle. However, that's not what I was there for. I was there because I wanted a career, man. So we would fight. We would tussle. More than often, I think Puffy would say, man, you got to chill. Like, you just a little bit too intense. You got to relax. Like, yo, man, I'm here to work, man. I ain't sang in a week. I mean, I'm 13 years old, like banging on this man as though, I am the manager. I am the spokesperson for Usher. And I'm telling him, look, you're going to put me in the studio, man. You got Biggie Smalls in there. You got Craig Mack in there. You're going to make me a priority, too. I'm not here to party with you. I don't want to go to the clubs. Matter of fact, I'm too young to even be in here. Why you got me in clubs? I think as a kid, I realized, hey, look, that's not my ring. That's not my moment. That's not my bottle. That's not my drink. That's not my celebration. So I'm not here to celebrate. I wanted people to be excited about me the way that they were excited about him. I wanted my own success.
Usher once described living with Diddy as a teen as a major learning experience. At the time, it sounded like just another chapter in his rise to stardom. But today, that same story is being viewed in a very different light. In earlier interviews, Usher recalled late nights, a fast-paced lifestyle, and being around things most teenagers would never encounter. Back then, it was brushed off as part of the glitz and chaos of the entertainment world. But now, those memories are being re-examined with far more concern. He even joked once about being exposed to a lot at a young age. But looking back, that joke feels heavier. It no longer comes across as a story of growth. It's starting to sound like a quiet alarm that no one paid attention to. What was once framed as mentorship now raises questions that can't be ignored.
And girls, you think he's done these things too?
How many underage, Pat? I wouldn't put it past him, maybe 20. Maybe 20 or more. What?
We're making up numbers at this point. I think when there's smoke, there's fire. They're going to find some stuff. I don't know the number. It could be 2. It could be 200.
When a kid goes, like, for example, you watch... did you see the Justin Bieber interview with this one guy he did where he's crying?
Yes.
I don't know. Did you see that?
He's talking about Haley, and he's like, he's bawling back because he doesn't want that to happen to her.
This is the one where he says he was living in shame.
If you find this clip, and he's interviewing this guy, and the guy, the way he's doing the interview makes him feel very comfortable. He's actually doing a great job.
I think I have it. This is it, where he's actually talking about Billie Eilish, I believe.
Billie Eilish,
and that's when he starts.
Yeah, my bad.
I want her to know that, You know, she can count on me, but at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, you know, let her do her thing. And if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters and
poor kid.
Yeah. So yeah, I just
you believe him? I believe him.
I just want to protect her. You know, I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody.
Go through anything that I went through.
Yeah, if she ever needs me,
can't even look at the camera.
I'm just a call away.
Okay. Let's play along with this and go through the sequencing together. Let's say everything we believe that happened, that Diddy did to him, when he says, I have him in custody for the next 48 hours. And we're doing some things that we can't really be talking about to everybody, right? And he's 15 years old. Okay. And then the next time Diddy runs into him, he says, hey, how come you haven't called me lately? You don't call me back. And he says, well, I've just been busy, but my number changed. I don't have your new number. You can tell Bieber is scared.
He's nervous.
And then it goes to a couple months ago when Diddy pulls up to Bieber, Rob. I don't know if you have this clip where he's touching his chest to see if he's wired or not. Patting him. He's going like this to if he's wired or not. And you can tell Bieber's looking down. He's trying to tell him. But you know how he's looking at him? He's looking at him as a defeated man, because here's a grown man in his 30s doing something to a 15-year-old boy. So then the question I ask is, how many people would he talk about this with? Like, look at this here. Look at this. That's not it? Or
a couple months ago.
Yeah. Go ahead and do this. Look at it. Boom, boom.
Head down, padding, making sure his chest doesn't have a wire. Yeah. No, that's Florida, huh, Pat? I think that's Florida.
So, if this happens to someone's kid and you know about it, what do you do about it?
Meaning, if I knew that this happened,
if say Justin's your son, you find out this happened to your son, what do you do about it?
And it's a factual thing.
He tells you. What do you do about it?
Me, dead serious, I'm going to kill P. Diddy. Me personally, I'm going to go, what? I'm going to jail for the rest of my life. Adam, I'm going to jail for the rest of my life because I'm going to find him and I'm going to kill him with my bare hands.
The parents, where are they here? Why aren't the parents saying anything?
The divorced parents, Adam.
Divorced or not.
I get what you're saying, but hear me out. Your son has...
What's the price you're willing to pay for success?
But here's my thing.
There's a chance that if Justin Bieber...
right there. That's it right there.
If Justin Bieber doesn't go to Diddy's house and go to Diddy's flavor camp, there's a chance 15 years later we never even hear of Justin Bieber. So now he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's one of the biggest music stars in the world, and we don't even know what happened to Diddy's place.
Usher discovered. Hold on a second. Justin Bieber in Canada would sit there, play the guitar, and sing in the middle of the street like those street performers. And Usher found him, and then Usher, it's almost like a grooming circle. Usher brings him
allegedly.
I said it's almost like a grooming session where he brings him back to the guy that...
Some of Usher's past interviews are making the rounds again, and this time, they're hitting differently. In one resurfaced clip, when someone casually brought up Diddy, Usher gave a quick, uneasy laugh and said, "Let's not go there." At the time, it sounded like a playful dodge. But now, that moment feels far more serious. Fans are noticing a pattern. The way he avoided certain questions, how his energy would shift, or how he'd drop vague comments without elaborating. It's not just the words, it's the hesitation, the tension in the pauses, that's drawing attention now. What once felt like lighthearted celebrity chatter is starting to look more like a quiet call for help, a series of subtle signals hiding in plain sight. And now, many are asking the same question. Was Usher trying to warn us, without ever saying a word?
Before he met Diddy, Usher was a kid who believed he was destined to be great.
I want to have a name for myself.
It was his dream.
If I don't believe it, nobody else would.
When he was only 13, the world started believing in his talent.
Young man is going places.
The next Michael Jackson.
But to become a star, he had to spend a year with a man he barely knew.
Man, I had a mother who was strict.
She's a big influence in your life, right?
Definitely. She's my manager, and I keep her with me everywhere I go.
How did you make sure that people didn't take advantage of him?
My mother used to tell me all the time, you need to stop telling people that you're going to be a big artist. I'm like, why? That's what I believe. This is what I think about myself. If I don't believe it, nobody else would. My mother was like, you're not going to be one of those people who just sitting around and sleeping on my couch. Just don't worry about it. I'll be gone by 14.
And as he broke free from the control of his mother, Usher found a father figure.
Puff Daddy.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep your dream going, baby.
As a result of being around that man, I don't sleep to this day.
Oh, Puffy was there. I didn't know him. And he said, you're going to have to trust me.
Puff Daddy becomes the legal guardian of young singer Usher Raymond.
He's going to mentor you and show you the life. We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
I'm gone. I want to entertain.
Though Diddy was extremely controversial, he also gave Usher freedom he never had.
You know, a lot of our young brothers and sisters, there's nobody that's showing them and guiding them through the business.
But Usher was quickly thrown into a world he didn't understand.
You know, most kids will be excited about it. I'm around grown women, and I'm seeing them do things.
But although his new mentor was a talented producer, working with him came at a cost.
You can believe the hype.
We banging, baby.
As you see, it's female friendly.
We showing the fuck off tonight.
You spent $1.5 million on this party?
I think they never been to a Diddy party.
Were you the only kid at Puffy Flavor Camp?
Diddy made Usher feel accepted.
You may not be able to rap, you may not be able to sing, but there's something else that you could do.
At the root of Usher's passion for music was a kid looking for his father.
There's nothing like a father's love. I suffered a long time making moves based off of the fact that I didn't have a dad.
And I was the kind of kid that, always wanted the most attention, so I would go over and beyond to make sure that I got it, whether it was dancing, singing, and that actually just turned into my talent.
Usher would have to make a sacrifice if he was going to keep his dream alive.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp?
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
in the 90s. Do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really.
Come on.
But hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Uh-huh.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans.
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary
okay?
J. Blige. They didn't know nothing about this.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like,
What
like
a
living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Those who knew Usher early in his career say something changed after his time around Diddy. He returned different, not in a loud or obvious way, but in how he carried himself. Friends describe him as more guarded, more selective about who he trusted. One producer remembered the shift clearly. Usher had gone from a wide-eyed teenager full of excitement to someone who seemed far older than his years. This wasn't just the typical wear and tear of fame. It felt deeper, like something personal had left a mark. Though Usher never spoke out directly or placed blame, those close to him noticed how tightly he began to protect his space. His silence, they believe, wasn't just quiet, it was intentional. Maybe it was his way of staying safe. Maybe it was how he protected others from things the public never saw.
I know, and people know, that was around in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now, I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you, you gonna give him a pass? Bruh, you know I know. Let me reframe you on something. Remember, Usher? We was at the Swiss Hotel. Puff had Kim in the room. Had one of Keith Sweat's baby mothers in the big room outside the master bedroom. He came outside in his robe. She gave him a fellatio right there. His back was turned to me. She gave him a fellatio. You knocked on the door. I came and opened the door for you. Puff went in the room. You came in the room and kissed that girl dead in her mouth. Now I'm telling that because you taking up for somebody that you know and a lot of more people know didn't do you right when you was at Diddy camp. Y'all put it together.
And what you mean by Diddy camp?
Remember? He was on one of the talk shows, the white guy with the curly hair. What's his name? The white guy with the curly hair. And he said, yo, would you send your son to Diddy camp? And Usher said, no. Ask him why he won't send him to Diddy camp. But yet and still you praise him.
Damn, man, and you said that, I know you can't go into detail, but you said that it was a situation where Diddy sent him to the hospital?
Let Usher explain that to you. Let Usher mama explain that to you. And the hospital was in Scarsdale, New York.
Listening to Usher's older songs now, many fans are hearing something they missed the first time around. Tracks like Confessions and Can You Handle It aren't just R&B ballads. They seem to echo deeper struggles, touching on trust, power, and hidden pain. What once felt like classic storytelling now carries a heavier emotional weight. Some are beginning to wonder, were these songs a quiet outlet for what Usher couldn't say out loud? The lyrics hit differently today, not just as chart-topping hits, but as glimpses into a young artist navigating something far more complicated than fame. Intentional or not, his music may have been his only safe space to tell the truth, without ever saying too much.
Wish somebody would come out and just like sue him. Like, we need Usher. No, we do. We need a victim to come out and be honest about him. Because what I'm realizing is that he's going to fake the funk until the very end. He's just going to keep on sucking the devil's. And I don't know, like with a baby, that pacifier, sometimes you got to pull it out. You know what I'm saying? And take it away. Right? When the baby's used to sucking on the pacifier. That motherfucker going to keep sucking on that shit until you do what? Till you take it out the mouth. Now it's going to scream and holler. But eventually it will get used to the fact that his mouth is no longer full with that object. And that it's time to just, learn how to live without it. He been sucking on Diddy's a long time. It's time for him to learn how to make this thing happen without the devil's in his mouth or ass.
You don't think if he sued, he'll just Lil Woody the situation? And I don't recall. No,
because I think if a victim comes out against Usher, it'll show how egregious this is. Because if he can be a predator, then anybody can be a predator.
Can't smile on your face the whole time.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, people look at Usher, they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there. Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute. And his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the diddler. Does that sound like a good guy?
It's horrible.
Does that sound like a good guy? Now that we know what Diddy's really like, what kind of asshole do you gotta be to take another boy, another talented boy, and put him in your place so it ain't gotta be you no more? Because that's what do. They get victims, and then once they get to a certain age and they get too old for them to enjoy them, they send them out to go get other young kids. Now, if Usher is a procurer, and if Usher knew what was going to happen to any of those young children that he took to the Flavor Freak off, is he a good guy? Especially considering what happened to him. Especially considering that he sat Howard Stern, and Howard Stern said, would you send your kids to Puffy's Flavor Camp? And his immediate response was, hell no! So it's good enough for everybody else's kids, but it's not good enough for yours. Yours are just good enough to die in Lake Lanier with no real investigation. Got it? Like, these aren't good people!
Oof. All right, Jeff.
He's not good! He's a... And the simple fact that Justin Bieber literally made a public statement and said, Usher asked me to do the Super Bowl with him and I turned it down. Why would he turn it down?
As the years passed, Usher slowly began to drift away from Diddy's circle. The party appearances stopped. The musical collaborations faded. And gradually, his personal life became more guarded, more private. There was no public feud, no viral headline, just a quiet separation. But in an industry where friendships are often broadcast and connections are worn like trophies, that silence stood out. Usher's distance wasn't loud, but it was noticeable. Now, as fans revisit the past with fresh eyes, many believe that step back wasn't accidental. It was intentional. A careful choice to remove himself from a space that may have felt more dangerous than glamorous. In hindsight, that quiet exit may have been the most revealing move of all.
They love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So, yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing. And if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters and
there was a time where I was sipping lean, I was popping pills, I was doing Molly, shrooms, everything. And it was just an escape for me. I was just young, like everybody in the industry and people in the world who experiment and do, just normal growing up things. But my experience was in front of cameras and I had a different level of exposure and people and I had a lot of money and a lot of things. So then you have all these people around me just kind of hanging on, wanting stuff from me, knowing that like I was living this lifestyle that they also wanted to live.